All athleticism and all ability and all talent is essentially your ability to feel water. Okay, so like if you get into a large body of water, you can see what happens when you become centered, because becoming centered is just feeling the spaciousness of the water inside of you. So as you feel the spaciousness of the silence inside of you, which is the water inside of you, your metabolism, everything shifts to being in the center of the body water, or at least kind of on top of the body. The water sinks below the noise, and then the noise rests on top of the silence within the fluidic parts of the body, right? Body's 80% water. There's some metabolism on top of or inside of that, depending on how you want to look at it. And so if you rest on that and center in that everywhere, so that all the not some part of the body isn't out of it. Like I have a lot of my like my back is out of the water, so I don't have like the acrobatic ability of like a circus performer who is like fully immersed in their being. And when you're in water like that, you can just breathe in or breathe out, and it actually changes your density, so you can sink in and out of it. But when you're finding balance, when you're finding center, it's the exact same thing as getting in water, except the water is inside your own body. And so that centering, that balance is spaciousness, is awareness, is silence, is peace, is listening, is stillness. And so as you find that, it moves the active part of the body into it, right? The active part is listening, is the person, is the doing. So as you listen to silence, like a meditation or a stillness practice, you shift into the water of the body, and you start to become floated. Not only are you floated, but you're carried by currents. You become energetically sensitive, because you're sensitive to the waves in the water. You're sensitive to the movements in the water. In that the water in the body is deep like an ocean. So it's not just like, oh, I went into the water there, and then it's like you go into the water and then there's a whole another incredibly vast world in there, and you can swim in there. This is David Lynch's stuff, transcendental meditation. And a lot of people want to worship the transcendent area, right? And that would be like worshiping what's under the water, right? The truth is the world which contains the superficial land, the surface land, and the depth, right? The depth isn't it. It's something that's both. Because we're creatures that are at home in both. If you become fully spiritual or fully angelic, right? I would say that's a pathology for a human to be an angel, right? To pursue that while you're alive anyway. And it's also a pathology to go fully into materialism. Ahriman and Lucifer. But yeah, and then as you sit there in that silence changes the electricity of the situation, and the body does these cycles in stillness, and you can become more and more coherent. it's not like pleasant. It's scary. It's real. It's not anything anybody's holding like retreats for, where you're like, where I don't think so. Like if it's spooled up to where you've got like this economic engine, right? I see posts on Instagram of people like teachers like advertising to, retreats of self-discovery and overcoming limitations and blocks and stuff like that, and it's just interesting. When I was younger, I thought doing that stuff would be cool. Like when I was younger, I woke up and I thought it was like the most important thing in the world, and everything that the world needed was for people to wake up, whatever that means. And now I'm so deep into it that I can't fathom anybody else not being awake. I have like no empathy for normal. And by empathy I mean like I can't imagine what it would be like to like be in the trance state, or to be I don't remember getting out of the trance state, so like it's like an interesting idea to like even try and market that to people, because like when people come up, it's like if what you're saying is true, right? Like if you're going, I'm awakened, and you're like, okay, let's market this, and I'm going to target people who are not awakened to become awakened. Like that relationship is like, those people are psychotic, right? Like unawakened people are psychotic, and if you're awake, you can see through all of it. And so because it's an extremely disingenuous relationship, because if somebody who's not awake like comes to me and says, I want the truth, or I want to be awakened, like I'm going to start saying and doing very normal, reasonable things that they will find to be utterly psychotic, and that don't go along with their dream thing. Most people in the dream state is the most respected thing between two people. If you're not awake, the dream state is the most respected thing, and so they respect each other's dreams, and they facilitate it, and they, you support it. And that means that's what when people find stuff on the internet like, oh, censoring, you can't talk about this, you can't talk about that, that's because it would at that time wake people up. And so if that's the case, then you can't say it. They won't let you say it, they won't listen. It's like there's a censoring thing going on. I don't quite know how to explain it, but being a lot of crying, a lot of like realization of like not being what you present yourself to be, you're not what you thought you were, disappointment. Like the only container that I found for it is like is Orthodox Christianity. That's like the only container that I found for real, true, deep, sustainable awakening. But and even then it's not surefire thing. I don't know. And then it's like I'm burnt out. It's a heavy burden. Like with the underwater breathing thing, like that amplifies human ability so much. A bit like I get other people to do it or whatever, but it's a heavy burden to like be that, to have that, and to have it like no other identity with it, right? Like I'm just a unlicensed electrician, right? There's no it's heavy, to be honest. Like it this stuff, I would say this stuff like ruins my marriage, which may be good, maybe bad. But I have like this consciousness awareness, like the stuff that I sense in my water, the stuff that I sense other people doing. So when people are talking about their problems or their whatever and their things, and then being able to see that but not talk about it, not say anything about it, right? Like I guess I just didn't pray enough. Because you can start seeing stuff more than everybody else, and then it's it's like being an adult, right? You can be like, let's say you're like 20 years old and you're taking care of 2 or 3 year olds, and like 2 or 3 year olds are like absolutely psychotic, which can make you behave super psychotic, even though you don't have any of these problems that the 2-year-olds have. Like they bring out that you do have those problems. Like very immature young people will do stuff to such a degree it brings out, you'll copy them. They'll be having a temper tantrum, and then the temper tantrum will make the adults have temper tantrums. And so that's what it's like being around unawakened people all the time. So a lot of people that are more mature just end up like just 100% spiraling. There's nobody else around. There's no context for an adult. If there's no context for an adult psychology, and you like mature to the next level. And then if you mature to the next level and there's truly no one around and you're the oldest, then you have no right? Like imagine it's like a bunch of 6-year-olds and somebody there's somebody figures out how to mature to 12. Do any of the 6-year-olds recognize it? You have to like work in secret, like higher levels of consciousness, more mature levels of consciousness have to work in secret, because the reaction towards it is the same reaction that 2-year-olds have towards being modulated, being controlled. And so that's where you get the elite. It's like the adults taking care of the children, and the elite have particular rituals and ceremonies and stuff that cause their consciousness to mature, initiation stuff. And then if people don't want their other kids, you remove the initiation ceremonies, right? Then the cultures won't mature. But the mature states take care of the immature states, because the immature states cannot fathom the world necessarily. And so that's like kids and adults. Are the adults doing a good job? A lot of the times, no. Are the kids right about a lot of stuff? Like a lot of the times, kind of yes. Do they not understand how the world really works? Yeah, the kids don't really get it. Would they do any better if they were in this situation? Probably not. But there are a lot of complaints that people could make from both situations. Like, And it gets messed up if you mature beyond your parents. That's messy. If you pretend like you're not mature, like let's say that you've matured and you're in a civilization of 4-year-olds and you're at the maturity level of an 8-year-old, if you pretend that you're not 8, that's also that's psychotic. Like you've been driven insane by the culture, right? Like if you're more mature and you just you don't move up or whatever, if you don't recognize what's happened in yourself, then you have, you know, older kids playing with younger kids and staying at that younger developmental age, and you see all these things all the time. You can see parallels to what's happening on these different psychological or spiritual planes in any culture, village, group of kids, adults. The most mature one being, I in my opinion, the jester or the trickster, clown. Like you have to not care about any status or any position, any authority. Then you can be whatever. But it's like, and then the TV show and the politics and all that stuff, like it's just if you expand your consciousness enough to start to understand characters, you start to see that these people are characters. It's like how like Mr. Rogers isn't real. When you're younger, you're like this, you don't even have the ability to question if Mr. Rogers is real. It's impossible to even question it at a certain level of maturity. As you get older, it's like, oh, this is scripted. These are scripted characters. And it's like, that's the same for like Elon Musk and Donald Trump and all the world at large and the like all of it's there's and if you try and screw with it, you'll get arrested for screwing up a TV show, but it's obviously a TV show. It's like running onto the set of Game of Thrones and trying to disrupt Game of Thrones. Like, no, you shouldn't do that. And the same thing with trying to disrupt the political theater. You know, is wrong. Being against whatever is wrong. It's like rebelling against your parents. Like fighting the machine or whatever is like rebelling against the parents. It's because it's obviously fake, right? Like it's obviously fake. If people can't see that it's fake, it's not because of the propaganda. It's because they're too immature to to fathom that. You know, it's like how people talk to kids in a smiley like voice, like a soothing, like the way that everyone talks to 3-year-olds. Come on, Billy. Like it's not like, oh, the 3-year-olds are being manipulated by the soothing voice or whatever. It's not that the general population is being manipulated by the media or by any particular group. They're just at this place where they're like, come on, Billy. And like the sing-songy upspeak voice is like they're at that level. And removing the TV show or or canceling the TV show is not going to change anything about the state of the 3-year-olds. Like, they're still going to be 3, and they still have to be managed, and who's going to manage them? It's not going to happen from people who have just now started giving it thought. But overall, I'm burnt out.